Hello, and welcome to Quality Time, the podcast made just for Nebraska's early childhood providers who are growing every day through Step Up to Quality. I'm your host, Laura Katie. Whether you're tuning in during snack time, cleanup, or your drive home, we're so glad you're here. Each episode, we spotlight the people, places, and partnerships that make early childhood care in Nebraska strong. This season, we're diving into early literacy, a foundational piece of quality early childhood care. From story times to home libraries to conversations during snack time, literacy is woven into every part of high-quality care. That is why I'm especially excited to welcome today's guest, Nancy Novotny. Nancy is a program manager at the Omaha Public Library. Before joining the public library, Nancy trained to be a teacher and spent years as an elementary school librarian. She brings that educator's heart to all the work she does with children, families, and providers. She is the perfect person to help us explore how libraries can support early learning across Nebraska. Nancy, welcome to Quality Time. We're so glad to have you here. Okay, so to start us off, can you tell us a little about your current role at the Omaha Public Library and give us an idea of what your work looks like day to day?
Hello. Well, day to day, there really isn't a whole lot of consistency because I'm the program manager and my team of 4 librarians, we plan all of the programs for all ages at the library. So in one day, I could be working on a storytime kit for 3-year-olds. Right now on Sunday, we're having a big celebration outside. So I was out moving barriers, like those construction barriers that the city sets up so that we could block off the parking lot. We are finishing up the summer reading program. And so when kids finish, they get a smensel. I don't know if you guys know what a smensel is. It's a smelly pencil.
Oh.
And so we're out of smensels. Can you send us more smensels? And then this year we're also, our Omaha Reads title is the book Solido. And so I'm trying to plan programming. And so I sent out an email to try to get some bilingual poetry workshop teachers from the Nebraska Writers Collective. So all day it's kind of in an ADD kind of a thing where it's all ages and whatever is popping up at the moment.
Oh, you sound busy. Sounds like summer. Is summer even more busy than the school year?
Definitely in the library. Summer is the busy time. So that was a big switch for me coming from education where summer is I'm off to no, it's all hands on deck during the summer.
Yeah. Well, that's so important to have, not just fun places for kiddos to go in the summer, but also yes, let's add a little education in there. Let's make it fun and educational. So that's so great. I'm sure, just like me, I'm a curious person. So I'm sure our listeners are curious to hear a little bit more about what led you to this job. So how did your path as a teacher bring you to where you are now?
I loved reading and I learned how to read before I went to school. But I never, for some reason, considered becoming a librarian. I don't know why that never entered my consciousness. Obviously, I saw people working at the library, but I did not see that as something for me. So I trained to be a high school English teacher. I taught GED classes for a couple of years. I got married. I decided I wanted to stay home with the kids. And then when my marriage ended, I thought, hey, this is a great time for me to, get a master's in library science while being a single mom with 2 kids in preschool. Wow. I really look back, I don't know how I did it, but I did it. And so I was an elementary school librarian for 10 years. 7 of those years, I was in Arizona in a suburb of Phoenix. And 3 years here in the Papillion School District, and then decided I changed my mind. Let's do this for a while. So then in 2016, I decided to switch from school libraries to public libraries. Okay. And so with Omaha Public Library, I started as a youth librarian, and then I became the head of youth services. And now I'm the head of all programs for all ages.
Wow. Well, you must be passionate about it because to be a single mom and going back to school, that is not for the faint of heart.
No, it is not.
No, that's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's always very inspiring to hear from someone who's made literacy their life's work. I'd love to hear, let's talk about early childhood programs. So can you tell us a bit more about the specific early childhood programs that the library offers?
We have a robust storytime calendar. So there is a storytime a Monday through Saturday at least one branch, probably 4 branches every day. We started doing some Sunday afternoon story times, but it just really wasn't fitting into family schedules. So we don't do the Sunday story times anymore. But we have baby story time, and people are like, why would you bring a baby to story time? They sit on your lap, you do a lot of bouncing rhymes and singing and talk about board books, and they eat the board books. And, it's literacy begins at birth. We have a music and movement story time geared for toddlers who are really not going to sit still. So there's a lot of movement going on. And then our story time is geared for kids older than 3.
Okay.
And all of our story times, we base them on the American Library Association's Every Child Ready to Read philosophy. And all of our story times include 5 practices, and they're not very hard things to do. It's just reading, writing, talking, singing, and playing. And so at story time, we want kids to learn to love books. We want them to learn new words. We start identifying letters and sounds. And then there's a lot of singing, rhyming, and we give tips for parents. So it is not a sit still and listen. Maybe if you were raised and went to story time, you just had to sit still with your hands in your lap. That is not what story times are like at the library at all.
I can picture it. I can picture a whole group of parents and caregivers and babies, and I can hear it. I can see it.
Yeah.
I would love to hear more about that. So can you tell us a little bit more? You said reading, writing, talking, singing, and playing.
Yes. These kind of seem obvious. I mean, like, obviously you're going to read to kids, and like writing seems like that is something that kids should be practicing, like with drawing and crayons. They go from the fist hold of the crayon to eventually the pincer hold, but just even finger plays when you're doing the itsy bitsy spider. All of those things where you're doing fine motor movements with your fingers are going to help kids. So using a glue stick is considered writing, pre-writing. Buttoning up, zipping up is considered pre-writing. But the other ones aren't quite as obvious. Like, what does singing have to do with reading? What does playing have to do with reading? With talking, when you read a story out loud, so if there's a phrase that is repeated all the time during a story or a word, then pre-teach that before you read that book out loud. And then you can cue the kids so that they say it with you. And then they're not worried about, oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. I know what to say. I need to say, no, don't go in there, or whatever the phrase is. And they're practicing talking. But if the kids are older, you can always ask them questions throughout the story, like, what do you think is going to happen next? Or what color is the ball? Or how many birds are on this page? And then also give them lots of time to think, because for them to listen to the question, process the question, decide what their answer is, and then actually say it. It's a lot. That's a lot going on in their little mind. So make sure you give them a lot of think time.
Well, it sounds very engaging, very interactive. And I'm always thinking, so as a language learner, I'm always thinking about our kiddos as well, who are learning in their second or third language as well. And so, like you said, the visual, I mean, the photos and things like that in the book are great, but also having like a sticky note. As a teacher, I used to always have sticky notes all over the books. Like, this is a word to teach, or this is a phrase, or like you were saying, those pre-teaching, that goes such a long way with our early learners. So
yes. With singing, obviously you can, there's a book called The Itsy Bitsy Spider, and it is the song. And so you could sing the book. And then that is another way for kids to make this connection that, hey, there are these scribbles on the page. Those are actually letters, which are words, which are meaning, which I know from this song. So it helps kids make that connection from the abstract to something that they already know. But then when we sing, we elongate the syllables. So like the itsy bitsy spider, we draw out that word spider. And that's the same process they use when they're learning to read the word spider out loud. They're going spider. And so again, they're making those neural pathways through singing that they're going to use later when they're learning how to read.
And it sounds fun.
Oh, totally fun. Oh yeah. I mean, if you can sing something, why not? And don't worry if your voice is terrible. They don't care. And then with playing, so how do you incorporate playing into a read aloud? Well, if there's a dog in the story, then, okay, let's pretend to be a dog and let's bark and let's sit up and beg, and making that connection between a real dog and the picture on the page and the word that I just said out loud. Um, but then also just when you're playing in general, even if it's has not, you're not reading a book out loud, but I picked up a block and I'm pretending I'm talking on the phone. It's an abstract connection between, hey, it's a block, but it's also a phone. Now I see these letters, CAT, which is very abstract. And now they can make a connection to, oh, that's a real cat that I've seen or I have in my house. So all kinds of things are going on in their minds that you don't necessarily think about, but you're helping and being more intentional by talking, singing, reading, writing, and playing all day long.
You're speaking my language,
Good.
especially the play. The play is so
Oh
important
gosh, yes.
with our younger kiddos. I mean, for all of us, really, even I'm not going to say how old I am, but I also love to play even as an adult. And I think what I'm hearing is that you provide a lot of opportunities. It's also modeling for families as well. Like, what are some of the different strategies that you can use to engage your kiddos? And it seems like you have to be pretty present and present in order to do these things with the kiddos, which I think is one of the biggest barriers with parenting these days. And so it sounds super fun. Like I said, I can hear it. I can picture it. I want to go to the story time.
Yeah, they're fun. Well, and we at the library, we do not teach kids how to read. That is not our mission. That's the school's mission. And parents, yes, you can teach your kids how to read, and childcare providers, you can do that, but it's all this other stuff that's going on that's just as important to get them to learn how to read eventually.
Awesome. Okay. So is there support available for our providers who might be listening, thinking about book recommendations or story time ideas, or maybe even help planning a literacy activity?
Yes. I mean, I would, if you have a small childcare, you could bring the kids to story time or just come by yourself. If you just a random adult who walks into story time, you're like, oh gosh, I'm going to stick out like a sore thumb here. Just go up to the librarian leading and saying, hey, I'm a childcare provider. I just kind of want to learn and see what you're doing. And that's absolutely fine. But librarians, we live for book recommendations. And do not ever think that if you ask us to help you find a book that you are bothering us. So if there's a theme, like, hey, it's fall, I want books about fall, or I'm doing a unit on penguins, we will find every penguin book that you could possibly be there. I will warn you, though, it is really hard to find a pumpkin book in October. So if it's related to the calendar season, that might be hard.
Mm-hmm.
You can also ask us just great books to read aloud. And then we have something at the Omaha Library called custom reading lists, where you can go online and fill out a form and just say, hey, I'm looking for books about this topic. Or, I mean, it can be anything. Like, it could be you, like, hey, I love this type of book. Can you recommend 7 books that I might like to read for me personally? Or you can do it for your childcare group.
Okay, that is very helpful. Let's imagine I'm a provider in a smaller or maybe a more rural Nebraska town. Do you have any suggestions for tapping into local library resources or even starting a new partnership?
Make friends with a librarian. Just this person is going to be your new best friend. It's usually a she, so I'm just going to assume it's a she. She can pull picture books for you. And also, don't forget about those nonfiction books. So boys tend to really like nonfiction more than they like, books about princesses and, princes or animals. And, I remember in kindergarten, this kid is like, really, are you going to read a pretend book again? Like, they want the facts, they want to know about dinosaurs and sharks. So, but anyway, talk to the librarian, even kind of let them know, these are the themes that I have coming up. Can you pull some books for me? Or even, she might just say, hey, Nancy, I just got some brand new picture books. You might want to read these books to your kids.
That's great. Actually, I was with my nephew earlier this morning. He's going to the zoo. I said, what are you most excited to see? And guess what he said? Sharks. Yeah. Yep. And, the nonfiction books they do go quickly.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of nonfiction with our younger kids. I feel like there's something for everyone, but I agree with you. That's really smart. Okay, so Nancy, we have received a few questions from our listeners, which is very exciting. We would love for you to answer one of their questions. So this comes from Sarah, and her question is, if kids want to keep reading the same books on repeat, is it better to let them, or should I encourage them to try new books?
Well, I think the answer is both. Don't be, I mean, it should have, if they want to read that same book over and over again, there's a comfort to it. Just think about how many times have you watched your favorite TV series, like Friends? You've seen them over and over again, yet there's that comfort level. You enjoy seeing it again. You enjoy the humor. You like reliving. So with kids, though, you can always make it a little bit different every time you read it. So maybe one time you focus on a 2-page spread and like you read the book, but you go back to that 2-page spread and you just talk about everything that's in that picture. That, how many things are here? Or, oh, look, there's a door. I wonder what's behind that door. You can always extend beyond what the story is. You could also do a little bit of negotiating, like, okay, well, we got this new book from the library. Let's read this one first, and then we'll read your favorite book. So again, they can get a whole lot out of it. And if they love the book over and over again, you can also start pointing out letters and, here's the letter O, it looks like a circle. Let's find some other O's in here, or here's a T. Can we find other T's? You can draw out so much just from one book.
Even role play. And I know, because I feel like student choice is so important, and to support that autonomy of, making choices. But yeah, like you said, just extending it, getting creative with the different ways to read it, or even asking them to read it to you. Okay.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. I mean, they can pretend like, and they're pointing to the words, but they're just making up their own. And yeah. Or maybe even it could just let's look at the pictures. Let's tell a different story using these pictures.
Yeah. How do you think this could end differently? What might have happened before this started? Yeah. Different things like that. Great. Yeah. Well, I love the listener questions. I hope to get more of those. Okay. Well, the time went by really quickly. The overall thing that I'm taking away is that literacy begins at birth. You said that earlier.
Yes.
And before we end, I always end with the same question. So I would love to know if you have a favorite children's book or a special read aloud moment that stands out in your memory.
Yeah, well, I've got an answer for each one. When I was a kid, I had the book Beezus and Ramona by Beverly Cleary. I own that book, and I just read it over and over again. I mean, I can visualize the pictures on the page. I know there was a point where Ramona got a bag of big puffy marshmallows, and so she's patting it all over her face like her mother would put her powder on her face. So that was my absolute favorite book. A read aloud memory. Most recently, there's a newer picture book called Red, a crayon's story by Michael Hall. And on the picture, you see that the crayon itself is blue, but the paper wrapped around it is for a red crayon, and it says red. And everybody in the story is saying, "Well, you're red. You need to be red." And he's trying so hard. I can't be red. And then at the end, he realizes he's blue. And so I'm reading this out loud. I am like choking up, like, oh my God, he's blue. And then I look up at the parents, and they just have this completely neutral expression on their face. I'm like, but you don't understand. You need to be yourself. Don't let other people tell you what you should be. I'm like, okay, Nancy, I think you need a break.
I mean, it goes back to what we said. You're passionate, and
that's true
too. I love that. Well, that's great, Nancy. Thank you so much for joining us today, and for all the work that you and your team are doing to bring literacy to life for children, families, and educators. It's really clear to me that Omaha Public Library is more than just a building of books. It's a partner in building brighter futures. I'm curious, is there anything else that we can do to support public libraries?
Well, it's not a great time right now for public libraries. If you've been reading in the news that some states are banning lists of books from all their public school libraries. They're starting with the school libraries, trying to move it into public libraries. In fact, last year, the Nebraska legislature was trying to penalize school and public libraries if certain books were in the collection, like we would be fined or go to jail. And I just feel like this is completely un-American. So in order to support libraries, we have the Nebraska Library Association. You can go to their website and there's an advocacy page on there. Write letters to the editor of the paper or on blogs or comment on Facebook pages, or write letters to your senator just about how important the library is to you. Tell them stories about why you need it, why you use it, why it's important.
Making it personal.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Nancy. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us and to share a bit about yourself and your work. We really appreciate everything.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you to our listeners. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on Quality Time. We hope today's conversation sparked some ideas, inspired action, and reminded you that you're never alone on your quality journey. Libraries are right there with you. Be sure to join us next time as we continue celebrating Nebraska's incredible early childhood professionals who are stepping up to quality every day. Until then, take care and keep turning those pages. Bye-bye.